welcome back. My name is Olive. So this is a short little shoulder and spinal kind of health, body MOT, whatever you want to call it, class. Just a chance to like work into the joints, work into the stability, work into some of the muscles surrounding these areas, and just hopefully feel pretty good after it. So all you're going to need is your yoga mat. If you don't have one, don't worry, you can use a carpet. And if you have maybe one of these yoga bricks, if you don't have one, a chunky book will do. Cool, I'll see you standing up. So we're going to come into some standing spinal movement to start with. So I want you to imagine from your hips down, you're sort of stuck in the mud, you can't move. So we're just trying to isolate the movement mainly into our thoracic region. So from the neck, covering the rib cage, about midsection of the body, working into this area. So take your hands across your chest and you're going to come forwards a little bit. Rotate and twist towards the right. Bend to the right. Circle behind, so you're bending to the left, twist to the left, and then forward. So you start to go through these movements. Maybe they start fairly robotically, but then you can start to make them more fluid, more spirally, working with the core control as well, as you just sort of make this nice circular shape through your thoracic region. And then change direction again, just starting to unlock and make some movement space and just start to lubricate the joints in this area as well. And then slow it right down, come all the way back to center. Release the hands by side, maybe give the legs a little shake. So I'm going to look more at some lateral kind of movement. So when I do this, I like to imagine myself as a snake like waving through the grass, but you're standing. So the idea is that you start to like bend towards the right. Then you come back through center, you bend to the left. You can obviously get your shoulders a little bit more involved. And right now my hips are again still under the mud, but we're now going to start to bring them in a little bit. So as you shoot your shoulders and your chest off to the left, you push your hips to the right. Then you meet in the middle and then snake off to the other side. And you can take your hands anywhere. They can be down by your side, they can be out, they can be above your head. It just feels pretty good to move in this kind of way. And we very rarely do move our bodies through this plane of movement. So you're just snaking, you're just moving. And then come all the way back through center, shake it up. So last one, we're going to look at some flexion and extension. So what we would usually do in a quadruped or all-four position of like cat-cow, as it's commonly known as in yoga. So I'm going to stand side on. This looks a little bit weird, but like I said, it's fun to just move your spine in this kind of way. Imagine you've got like a wall in front of you or a mirror or whatever it is, and you're kind of going to touch it at various points. So you start with the head, and then you let the chest touch, and then your belly, and then maybe the hips, and then curl away. And again, forehead, chest, belly, hips. So you're sort of again snaking through this movement, controlling with the core, with the abdomen. Take your hands wherever they want. I quite like to have them out by my side. You can kind of rock as well between the balls of the feet and the tiptoes, and then see if you can reverse it. So rather from going from the head down, try go from the hips up. So hips, belly, chest, head. And you might find it easier one way than the other. It's just testing our coordination, our neuromuscular and motor control. But yeah, it just feels pretty good to move the spine in this kind of way. And then release, shake it all out. So grab hold of your brick, your block, your phone, your teacup, whatever it is, and let's come into some simple movement for the shoulder, playing our game of teacups. So again, feet about hip distance apart. Start with your object into your right hand and make sure the hand is nice and flat. We're not using the fingertips to grip. And then you're just going to kind of create this circular shape above. And then think about creating a circular shape as you lower back down. So let's start off without using the hips. So we're just trying to isolate it into our shoulder. So try to find stillness in the rest of the body. Coming back to the analogy of being in the mud. So again, core is braced. Change direction with the loop. Try as much as you can not to grip the object, even though it's super tempting. Let's go one more way. And then let's switch onto the other side. And again, with control, only trying to move into the shoulder, bring it up above the head. Oh my god, so much more restriction on the side. So obviously find and adjust as you need. Try to be a bit more receptive to your body's current abilities, strengths and weaknesses involved too. Change direction. So we are going to do it one more round, but the next round we're going to involve a little bit more movement into the rest of the body, so it's not as dominant into the shoulders. Cool, so bring it back to center, swap back to the first hand. Now this time as you press it up and lift, maybe you start to rotate and move through the hips, the spine gets a bit of action as well. Maybe you want to come super low, you can come to kneeling, you can come to sitting, whatever feels good. Change direction, we'll do 3 more before swapping to the other side. Cool, and then again, swapping to the left, start with the spirals. Change up your stance, change up your position, come low, stay high, whatever feels good. And then again, change direction, adjusting, adapting, gaining that feedback. Last round, and back to the top. And there we go, so you can pop your object down to the side, we'll be done with that for now. And from here we're going to come into some neck curls. So, finding that again, nice stable position in the legs, little soft bend in the knees, roll the shoulders back and down so they're sitting to neutral. Palms are going to be open by your side, try to really spread the fingers super wide. So, start by dropping chin down to the chest, breathing into the back of the head, then look across to the right palm, take right ear, right shoulder, breathing. Slowly circle behind, left ear, left shoulder. Look down to left hand, chin back to the chest, and then looking all the way upwards. We're going to go one more time, chin drops down, look towards left hand this time, left ear, left shoulder, circle the head behind, take right ear, right shoulder. Look down at the right hand, chin comes back to the chest, and then looking all the way upwards, and just release the fingers, give them a little shake out. Before we come into looking at our bicep, we're going to just work into the deep neck flexors, so the muscles that help support the head. So all you're going to do, feels a little bit weird, but again, just go with it. You're going to be in a neutral position, you're going to stick the head out as far in front of you as you can, and then draw it back, almost create a double chin. So again, sticking it in front and then drawing it back. Just so we start to activate into those supportive muscles for the neck. And this is quite a good one to do, especially if you've been sat at a desk all day. Cool. Let's go one more time each way. Then draw it back. Cool. And then shake it up. So we're going to have a little look at stretching our bicep. It's a very weird kind of sensation because we're working with some of our nerves running down the bicep muscles, so meridian and ulnar nerve. You're going to come to a wall, and what you're going to do, you're going to take your palm flat to the wall, but your fingertips are facing down. So I'm taking my left hand to the wall first of all, fingertips are facing down, my thumb is pointing off to the left side. The hand is as flat as possible. You want the wrist, elbow and shoulder all in one nice long line. And then you're going to turn away from the arm. So you're pushing into the wall and slowly rotating away. And then as you do, you find that sweet spot where it feels like this buzzing, this tingling, this numb kind of sensation traveling down into your bicep. Of course, you might need to adjust it, so maybe you take the hand lower, maybe you rotate more, you rotate less. But as you're going throughout it, just remember, nice deep breathing. Let's be here for 2 more breaths. Try to keep the spine in neutral. And then slowly rotate back towards the wall. This time, you're going to take your left hand by your side. Your fingertips are facing outwards, palms to the ground. Now turn your fingertips towards your body. And do a little bit of more flossing for those nerves. So chin drops to the chest. Take your right ear to your right shoulder. And then just start to create small circular movements with your left hand. And again, as you do it, you might feel it going weird into that bicep region. You control the pace, you control where you want to turn the head. Now change direction as well. Move the head around, again just explore. And then release the hand, release the head. Cool, let's come to stretch the right side. So right hand is going to go to the wall, fingertips face down, your thumb is off to the right hand side. Set yourself up, shoulders in line with the elbow and the wrist, and then turn away from the hand. Again, remember as you do it, oh my god, breathing. This side feels so much worse. Breathing into it. Things you can adjust as well is how much pressure you put into your fingertips. So like really squeezing them against the wall, how much you want to rotate through the chest. Breathing, of course. Stay here for one more breath. And then again, as you rotate back forwards, nice and calmly, take the right hand down by your side, turn your fingertips towards your body, palm facing down. Chin to the chest, left ear, left shoulder. Small controlled circles. One way to start with. And then again, changing direction, circling the other way. And then release the head, release the hands, give everything a little bit of a shake out. Lovely. So we're going to come down into some ragdoll and then look at some inchworms and some core awareness, just because it's all fair and well working into the spine in terms of general mobility for the joints, but the core is so involved in the protection of the spine that we need to work into it as well. So have the feet nice and wide, about hip distance, bend the legs and let the chest come down to the thighs, chin to the chest, looking behind you, and maybe cradling the arms. If you don't feel safe cradling the arms, just take them down to the floor, but you're going to let your spine come into flexion, so chin to the chest, and maybe you just start generally rocking side to side. So remembering that the spine, or the head, is involved in the spine, so we want to try really relax this area as well. Just go for 2 more breaths here. And then you're going to plant your hands down to the ground. Doesn't matter if your legs are bent or straight. You're going to push into the hands so the shoulders stack above the wrists, and slowly start to tiptoe the feet back one at a time. So we eventually come into a nice high plank position where the shoulders are stacked over the wrist, the core is braced, we're not too far into protraction or retraction for the shoulders, everything is in a nice neutral position. And then we're just going to slowly tiptoe the feet all the way back in. When they're behind the wrist, push through, come all the way up to standing. So I'm just going to do that a couple times. So folding forwards, hands down, take your time, tiptoe the feet behind you. Coming into high plank, breathing here, bracing through the core, engaging the glutes, pressing through the whole hand, and then tiptoe the feet all the way in, pushing to stand. Let's do it 2 more times. So folding forwards, hands down, tiptoe the feet away, keeping that breath regular. Engagement, so making the high plank easier, tiptoeing the feet in. So also testing out our shoulder and our pelvic stability as we go throughout it as well. So last time, folding forwards, hands down. This time as we tiptoe back, we're going to stay in high plank. We got some options. So you can either do shoulder taps in the high plank, or you come down onto the knees, but you brace through the core, and you're just going to slowly tap opposite hand to opposite shoulder. So feel free to start moving now. If you're in the high plank position, you might need to take your feet a little bit wider than they were, but using the deep core to avoid twisting and dropping as you lift the hand off the ground. So let's go for 2 more taps, and then break, come down to your knees, sit down, roll through the wrists, flick out through the fingers, and get your breath back. Cool, so let's come back into a tabletop position. Have a little bit of a look at some spinal articulations, this time in the quadruped position. So you're going to start into extension, meaning belly is lower towards the ground, we're squeezing our shoulder blades together, and we are looking forwards. So quite a nice extensive pose to be in. Now we're going to come into flexion, but I want you to try control the movement from the base of your spine all the way up to the top. So without moving the upper part of the body, you're going to start to tuck in through the tailbone, through the sacrum, a little bit off the lumbar, waving gently up to the thoracic and eventually into the cervical. And then again, from this position, we're going to start with the coccyx, the sacrum, then into the lumbar, into the thoracic, and eventually the cervical. So you're slowly starting to segment the spine as we go throughout this movement, gaining more awareness and more motor control of the different sections of the spine in terms of mobility as well as stability. So you just understand this area of the body perhaps a little bit more. Noticing what it feels like to go from flexion through neutral to extension, and also how involved the deeper layers of the core are as well in facilitating this movement. Cool, so let's just go one more time each way, because it feels really good. And then slowly come all the way back into our neutral tabletop position. Lovely. So when you're ready, you're going to step your left foot forwards. So we come into a kneeling stance. Now, ideally with this position, we want to have nice right angles in our legs. So front knee is stacked over the heel, and that's in line with our hip socket. Back hip is over that knee. And again, heel is in line with the knee, just so we have a good solid foundation to go on. And if you wanted to, because it always helps to have good strong foundations, press your big toe into the ground. Think about driving this heel backwards, so you switch on the hamstrings. Think about driving the front knee forward, so you switch on hip flexors and quads. Always good to have a good solid foundation, so that the then movement that we start to work on becomes easier. You're not worried about falling over. So, your left hand is going to gently hold the inside of the left thigh. Reason being is we want to avoid this knee collapsing in, so it's just there as a little bit of a reminder. But we're mainly working into the right shoulder. So core is braced, right hand is going to start down by the right thigh, palm facing inwards. You're then going to start to lift the hand up and in front of you. As it starts to lift above the shoulders, you rotate the palm to face the outside as the hand comes to face behind. And then again, you slowly swim it all the way forwards, landing it down by your hip. So that's the movement here. We're not doing a full circle because we don't have too much ability to open up entirely behind us before we start drawing into the thoracic spine. So we're just trying to limit it into the right shoulder capsule to start with. So try to keep your chest and your hips still facing forwards, even as we involve the rotation into the right hand side. And if this feels too easy, that's fine. You can always add like a kilogram weight into your hand. Again, reminder about the left knee. Let's go one more time. And then release and swap over. So, right leg steps in front, check your foundations, check hamstring activation, quad and hip flexor. Right hand to the inside, left hand again to the outside of the left thigh. Lift it up in front, open it and let it rotate behind you whilst your chest and your shoulders still face forwards. So again, remembering we're not going for a full circle, it's more like, I don't know, 6/8 of a circle. That doesn't even make sense, but you know what I mean. It's just over 3/4. Good, again remember keeping that breath strong and stable throughout the movement. Let's go one more time. And then release, returning back to our hands and our knees into our quadruped tabletop position. So we're going to have a little look at our scapula. So our scapula is our shoulder blade, and we need to learn to get it to move efficiently so it stays on the rib cage and we don't create sort of further potential damage to our shoulders, especially if we are regular yoga practitioners and we're doing a lot of chaturangas. Scapular awareness and control is something that we can all improve on. So arms are going to stay straight throughout this movement. You're going to brace through your core And the idea is that you bring your shoulder blades together through protraction, and then you push through the ground, you separate the shoulder blades coming into retraction. So again, they come together and they squeeze, and then they open and separate. Nice and slow throughout these movements, keeping the arms nice and straight, bracing through the core. Oh, I messed that up. Bringing shoulder blades together is retraction, and then pushing through is protraction. My bad. Good, let's just go one more time each way. And then all the way back through to a neutral position in the spine. So now you know the difference between protraction and retraction. Find that neutral alignment of the shoulder blade, where the shoulder is sitting in a neutral position in its socket. We're going to have a look at some bird dogs because they're a super good way of training the deeper core muscles, and again looking at shoulder stability and pelvic stability. So you're going to start to slowly extend your left hand directly out in front of you. As you do this, make sure you're not twisting into the left shoulder and the left chest. From there, pressing down into the left knee, extend the right leg straight behind you. Make sure the heel is in line with the butt. We don't want to lift it any higher because we want to maintain control and awareness. So deep core is switching on, posterior chain of the right leg, anterior chain of the left leg, and we're breathing. Slowly bring it to the floor and we'll swap over. Right hand, left leg extends. We find an equal lift, engagement and breath. And then slowly lower down. I'm going to do a couple more. So again, engage to lift, bracing through the core. Slowly return to the floor. Right hand, left leg. Again, brace. You can either look to the ground or you can look ever so slightly in front of you. And then return to the floor. Now take a mini break just before I might make it a bit harder. Roll through the wrist because it can be very strong onto your wrist. If you felt comfortable with that and you maybe want to advance it, you can do an elevated bird dog, which is a little bit harder, but if you wanted to do that, I will pop it in now. So again, we're going to do 4 more. You either have the option of doing exactly what we just did, or instead doing it with your knees elevated. So let's all do it together if you want. Knees elevate off the ground, and then you see if you can again find the same extension, and then slowly return. Right hand, left leg, slowly return. Please feel free to come back onto hands and knees if that is too impossible. It is very difficult, so don't worry about it. I will just do 1 more. And then to the floor. So yeah, that is one way that you can maybe quote unquote advance a pose if you wanted to make it a little bit more difficult for yourself. Cool, let's come down onto our front. We're going to have a look at some rhomboid activation. So, lying on your belly, have your toes tucked so you can engage your glutes, press the hips to the floor. Your rhomboids are super important muscles to help again support your scapula, support the spine, and to help protect the shoulder joint. So what we're going to do, you can either take your forehead down onto your mat or a pillow, but that means that the spine is in a neutral position. I'm going to start with the hands by our side, and you're going to roll your shoulders so they're sitting neutrally into their sockets. From there, we then lift the entire arm off the floor as high as we can without bending the elbows. We're going to bring the thumbs together, see if we can squeeze to touch, and then release back down to the ground. So that's 1 rep. Like I said, try not to bend the arms because that's cheating. You're thinking about recruiting the muscles that are either side of the shoulders and coming down about mid-spine. So let's go for about 8 of these. So when you're ready, forehead to the ground, roll shoulders back, lift, squeeze, and then release back down. Reset, lift, squeeze, and slowly down. So I will keep going, making sure you're still engaging the glutes, pressing the hips to the floor, bracing through the core, keeping that breath regular, thinking about what muscles you're switching on, which ones you're recruiting. So one more, shoulders roll back, lift hands, squeeze thumbs together, and then release and come down. Beautiful. So hopefully they feel a little bit more switched on, everything feels a little bit more activated. So just to finish off with, we're going to roll onto our back and do some dead bugs. So if you just roll on over. Dead bugs are very similar to the movement of bird dog, but we're just upside down. So again, thinking about bracing the core. You don't want to flare your lower ribs, you want to brace. So you're thinking about drawing belly button in and then pushing everything back out into like an imaginary belt, imaginary corset. So you will have a little bit of space between your lumbar spine and the ground, that is fine, as long as you brace. Hands are going to go straight above the shoulders, legs lift up, knees over hips, and you bring the ankles to about 90 degrees. So from here, again, opposite arm, opposite leg. Left hand is going to move towards the ground, as does the right leg, without losing core stability and control. Just let them come down as low as you feel comfortable with. Then super slowly back through to center, and then down to the other side. Right hand, left leg. We're going to go for a little hold at the bottom, and then travel all the way back through center. So again, left hand, right leg, holding at the bottom, making sure you're using the core, back through to center. Right hand, left leg. What you want to avoid is any increase in space between your lumbar spine and the ground as you lower down. Slowly back through center. Let's just go 2 more times each way. Breathing, keeping it controlled. Not rushing for the sake of it, just because it sucks. Last time each way. Last one with the right arm, left leg. And back through to center. And release, feet down to the ground, and maybe just gently come to windscreen wipers, rocking side to side. Cool. Just to finish off with, let's just come back to a little bit more spinal movement. So bring yourself up to kneeling, grab hold of your block or your book, whatever the object is. You're just going to hold it out in front of you, and the idea is that we're just creating like a full circular movement. So you can hold it wherever arms are out in front but the elbows are drawn away, and the idea is that you just start to create some circular movements over the head and then in front. So it's just quite a nice way to again bring back some controlled range to the shoulders. Of course, if it's available to you, change direction. You can do this with, say, like a kettlebell. Some people in the gym do this with like a weighted plate, just so you start to recruit a little bit more of the stabilizing muscles around the shoulder. Cool. And then maybe reverse again. You can even bring more of the spine into it if you wanted to. Change direction one more time, get the spine involved. Cool, and then bring it back down to center. Cool, so there we have it. I hope you enjoyed that quick little shoulder and spinal health movement kind of session. Any requests for future videos, anything you liked in this or didn't like, just let me know, and yeah, I will see you next time.